Honest community, before we dive into this episode, we've got a quick free favour to ask. If you enjoy the Honest Property podcast, please hit like, follow and subscribe wherever you're listening from. It helps us grow, reach more people and bring on guests that you want to hear from. Thanks for being a part of this. We appreciate you more than you know.
Hello, welcome to the Honest Property podcast. We're your hosts, Becky and Ruth, and on this podcast, we love talking all things business and property. And on today's episode, we have Jazz Dhaliwal, a property solicitor, which we are really glad to have because we really would love to hear the insights from somebody, like a really important person who's part of the process for investing in property. So welcome, Jazz.
Welcome, Jazz.
Thank you both for having me. I'm so excited about this. I guess the process that's involved and the issues they can face and how they can kind of like overcome it as well. So I'm definitely excited to share my story and the journey of a property transaction.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because we've had various experiences with different solicitors that I find that depending on the solicitor, the experience can really change.
It depends how you approach it as well, I guess, and like what kind of solicitor you have, to be fair. If you're just like straight honest and, you tell your solicitor the process and, I have some clients that say to me, Jazz, I'm going to tell you it's limited company and it's gifted monies. So I've already got like the head start of, oh, right, I know it's gifted monies. I know I need a gifted declaration. Some clients don't tell me until the 11th hour. And to be honest, because they've told me so late in the transaction, like just before exchange of contracts, they're like, you know what, we could do with another 5,000. So if you don't mind, it's going to be gifted. And I'm like, right, okay, like, why do we need more? Because like there's like sufficient money in there. But they're like, well, we could use our money. And we just thought we'd take another 5,000 towards purchase price, which is fine. But if you could tell me, that's where, I guess solicitors get a bad name because they're asking for too much detail. But of course, we've got to go through bank statements. We've got to speak to the donor direct. We've got to speak to the lender. So there's always like a process involved. So I always say like to clients, I give them normally like a questionnaire and 9 times out of 10, you normally get the clients that say, right, okay, this is the position we're in. And so we can just get going and there's no more delays or anything like that. And it's a lot to do with communication, to be honest. Like the more you communicate with your solicitor, call, email me, like I always say, look, I'm available. I'm not going to be that corporate firm that is going to be like 9 to 5 and you're not going to be able to get hold of me. There is like, I am a human. There's like no robots or anything.
Yeah, and you're a mother as well. So you have to juggle so much admin around being a mum. How does that work?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I don't do it by myself. I have like a support staff as well. And you build your, to be honest, you couldn't do it all. But it's amazing because I love what I do. And then children and they see what I'm doing, that even when we go for a drive, they're like, Mum, like a flat, is that a house? And I'm like, oh wow, like they're actually interested. Like I don't remember at that age like questioning it too much, but I guess they're so surrounded by what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and like events I go to. So I guess that kind of like that intrigue button, which is like amazing. Like I'm all about like supporting the younger generation, more of that. So I do want to go into like schools and talk about it and say, look, this is what it means to be part of building a property and getting financial freedom.
Yeah. I think it's information that isn't shared with the younger generation so easily. So for you to be able to do that, I mean, must be so rewarding.
Yes, definitely. So like I have like my child. So the other day he came back, he's like, oh, we were talking about properties and what kind of houses we live in. Slowly but surely.
Oh, that's so sweet. I think this is I'm really excited to have this conversation actually, because you learn about how to invest, or at least from our perspective, we learn how to invest in property, but the conveyancing part, the legal part of it is something that isn't like the process. You're not aware of it until you're actually doing it. And that's, I think, the stigma against how long it might take or how complicated it only really exists because people don't understand, they don't have the knowledge.
They don't have the knowledge. People think, well, as soon as you've got the key, as soon as you've accepted the offer is accepted, say you were purchasing a property, then it will be done within a month. But that's not always the case. I think people become impatient. So knowing the process and how long it takes and having that knowledge before, you're going to have a clearer expectation of what's involved.
Realistic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think even like even when I'm meeting at events, I'm always like, follow so and so. They're always talking about first time buying. There's always like tips and tricks on social media. Is like such a big thing right now. There's like more available than it was back in our years. So that's definitely, there's a lot actually in it until you actually buy the property, go through the process. It's like you've got to do it, but to know it kind of thing.
Absolutely. And like I said before, every solicitor is different. So what would be, I feel like this is a really good opportunity to share with the listeners and the audience, what would be your top things that people need to look for when it comes to managing their expectations with the conveyancing process, whether they're an investor or a first for your own home? And how do you find a solicitor that suits what you need?
And like the timeline, like roughly what's the timeline and all of the things that are involved
to manage everyone's expectations?
Sure. So I'm going to use my timeline, to be honest, because I know a lot of solicitors have different timelines, and it's like completely different. So it kind of depends what kind of solicitor you instruct as well, and what their capacity issues are like. So I guess as a first time buyer, I'm always like, whatever solicitor you use, make sure it's a fixed fee. There's like so many hidden charges at the end that first time buyers just owe £500, something like as small, they're suddenly like, oh, Jazz, can we transfer? They're charging us another £1,000 by the time we got hidden charges. So I guess a lot of first time buyers just aren't. So do look of that. If you're going to choose a solicitor, make sure they have capacity, caseload. So what I do is I say no more than 40, and then I'm done for the month, to be honest. And that's one client to get less of my time than the other. I know kind of like, okay, right, this is it. Whereas I think the big, large corporate firms, they can volumize that kind of work, because sometimes it's not even a solicitor acting on the file. So just make sure that it is a quite, normally you have paralegals, legal assistants, and all the solicitor is doing is probably signing off the file just before exchange of contracts. And our factory law firms can do that, and which is great. If it works for their business, that's fine. But I don't know. I want like solicitor who's looking at my file day from opening all the way to the end, and it's just like available. Someone that can just answer the phone and be like, hey, Jazz, I didn't understand that. Or you sent me these documents. Do you mind just going through them? Like, I'm just such a open, like I'm able to talk. And I guess a lot of solicitors are like, well, what day and time can you do? And we'll put you in the diary. And that's just not going to work in today's world. And then, I guess just make sure that they do have availability as well. And I guess it doesn't matter where the solicitor's located. Like, I'd go across the whole of England and Wales. It doesn't have to be local to you. I do have clients that say to me, oh, Jazz, I've got a local solicitor. That's absolutely fine. If you don't do the whole digitalized system, which I appreciate, because I guess a lot of clients just don't do emails. There's still some clients that would prefer postal and meeting a client face to face. So just make sure all those like factors kind of depend. I'm remortgaging within 7 to 10 days. And if it's like a purchase, you're looking at somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks, only because you've said it's a lender. And so we need to apply for searches. Something like a leasehold transaction is a lot longer, just because you're contacting the managing agent, holders. There's a lot of like different parties involved. And I guess the more parties that are involved, it takes. So you're probably looking at, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks when it's a leasehold transaction.
That's really, really good to know. Really, really good to know. We used a digital solicitor to remortgage one of our properties, and that was quite a new experience, because all the conveyancing we'd ever done before was very much in person. We would sit opposite our solicitor, get to kind of know what holidays he's about to go on, how his family are.
Oh yeah,
and then he shut
down. But I think I agree with you with your saying with the service type businesses. Like even with our mortgage broker, we have a great relationship with him, and I think there's something that you can't beat, having that personal, being able to have like that full relationship, because I guess you're involving legals, like quite big life things with a solicitor that's going to, is really going to change your life. That you want to be able to feel like you can know and trust that person, especially in an age.
You're buying your first home, especially. But then I got to put a spin in that. When we were remortgaging, we used Taylor Rose. Do you use you work on Taylor Rose?
Yeah. I'm a consultant for Taylor Rose.
Yeah. So the process, I actually quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I think if it was the very first time, because we were remortgaging one of our properties in our portfolio, we didn't need that personal touch then. So I think there's a place for both, but if you are doing it for the very first time, I think it helps to have someone actually handhold you and give you that personal touch instead of
they can explain like the random jargon or the random costs or things to look for. That really helps.
Yeah, there is a lot of, like, to be honest, that's used. I try to make it plain and simple, like even like deposit monies. I don't think I use deposit, to be honest, too much, because they're like, well, what do you mean by deposit monies? My deposit's only 5% and you've said 10%. And there's a lot of that. Or sometimes I get, clients that say to me, Jazz, I've got 25% balance monies, but you've asked for 10% deposit monies. But for the purpose of exchange of contracts, I'll always ever need 10%. But I guess a lot of clients don't understand why and how and what does exchange of contracts even mean. So it's definitely great that they're able to like reach out, or I'm available for them, to be honest, because there is a lot of like that kind of business. And I guess a lot of solicitors just do you kind of know it, but of course that's nowhere near the case, to be honest.
Yeah. I think dispelling the jargon and being really clear with the process. You know what? Another thing I just want to do a little shout out to Rosalia. Actually, solicitors and brokers don't typically they're not known for like getting themselves out on social media, but because so many more are, it really is useful for people watching to understand what is meant to happen. Whereas this was very much information that was behind closed doors, and you kind of just had to hope that
walk into a shop and hope that you need to. But so I'm so grateful for social media. I mean, we wouldn't have found your page if you have your social media account as well. And I think it's just trying to serve the younger generation who use social media so much. I think it does help to have a digital presence as well as like a shop presence, depending on what type of client that you're serving. Do you have generally older or younger people that are getting onto the property? Like, what's the average age now?
It ranges, to be honest. I think starting from where around the 23 mark, as young as 23, and then going all the way up until 70s, to be honest. So there's no particular like age group. Always someone like buying, to be fair. I guess even if it's a first time buyer, an investor, someone that's overseas, and social media, like you're so right. Like I did issue, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, like there's like information that's probably normalized for me, but I guess the rest of the world just don't know that if a solicitor does say they have capacity issues, it's kind of a good thing, because you're going to get priority over your case. So you're right, you get a lot of information from social media. I wish I had it back in the days, but it's changing.
Before we continue, here's a quick thought. Ever feel like there's just never enough time to focus on what really matters in your business? You don't have to do it all alone. As they say, a great team makes everything easier. That's why we've partnered with the Freedom Geek. Their talented Filipino VAs help us with tasks like admin and podcast editing, just like for this episode, giving us the freedom to focus on what really moves the needle. If you're looking to reclaim your time and to work smarter, then check out the Freedom Geek. All the details are in the show notes. Now let's get back to our conversation.
So what could people do to make life easier for both people? Because at the beginning of our chat, you said that it was really last minute to provide certain information, like that some things were gifted. What would make the process
more streamlined
and easier for everyone, so that we all, the goal is to obviously complete exchange, like everyone's got the same goal. So how do we make it easier for everyone? What would your clients need to give you to make it simple?
Yeah, I think just communicate with everyone and just let them know how the process is. So, if it's going to be you buying as an individual, make sure it is individual all the way through, and then suddenly you're not changing to limited company. If you are, tell your solicitor, look, I have the intentions, maybe I might change it to limited company whilst we're, going through the transaction. So I guess just the more you of whereabouts you are, even with like the mortgage offers, put us in touch with the mortgage brokers, know what the process is, where's the valuation, the surveyor, when you get a report. So many clients just forget to send it on, which is like surprising. Like be like, look, did you conduct a surveyor? Do you have a surveyor's report? So I think a lot of things, they're like, oh, well, we did, but the surveyor said there was nothing to worry about, which is interesting because obviously when you look at the legal section, they're asking for certificates. They're like, make sure you're gas safe because there's a new boiler. So yeah, I guess just the more disclosure your solicitor, the easier it's going to be honest. And just make sure every party's like talking to each other. And, if there's a chance where I'm saying to you, I can't get hold of the seller's solicitors, reach out to the estate agent directly, ask what the hold up is with the seller directly. All these parties are involved. So there are a lot of parties, but I guess the more you communicate with each party and the information back to me, the easier it will be, to be honest. It will definitely be easier. It will be smoother.
Isn't that the rule of life? Just good communication.
And then just
one rule.
But I think I think that's a really good point. I think sometimes it can be easy to just give complete control and go, oh, well, all the legals is going to be sorted out and by everyone else. But if you're not communicating to check, at the end of the day, it's your purchase. If you're not communicating to say, oh, how's it getting along? Obviously, you don't want to be annoying, just be like ringing up every single day, but not communicating to find out where you stand. You're just going to get frustrated and feel like the process is taking longer than it should when maybe it really isn't.
Yeah, for sure. I can't home in enough, to be honest, on communication, to be fair. Like even like throughout the transaction, I do let clients know, like if there are any changes, like even like with gifted monies, like I said before, like just do let me know on the outset if you have even the intention to do it. Like I had a client that said to me that I'm not sure if I'm going to use gifted monies, but I might use gifted monies. But the fact that you said you might as well just disclose it to the lender directly, to be honest. And the quicker the lender gets for me, otherwise for me to go directly to the lender and say, oh, there's gifted monies, they're going to be like, oh, we didn't know about that. And it just creates a whole load of like, we're going backwards as opposed to forwards, to be honest.
So it's like being really clear with your goal from the beginning. And would you advise just having everyone in a CC'd email the whole way through so then everybody's in the loop? What's the best way to streamline this communication with all the parties?
Probably not CC me to all emails. Otherwise my inbox will like jump, to be honest, and it will literally be like inbox is full, we cannot send anymore. So let's not try and get to that stage, but just like a weekly email to me, just with updates. I spoke to the broker, I spoke to the agent, I spoke to the surveyor, these are my intentions. Where are we at? Or, this is where I'm at. Just like a weekly email, just to see, where you are, where I am. Then we're kind of like all on the same page and we have more realistic dates for like exchanges and completions. Because I guess that's like the number one thing that I get from a client. Like they've done the onboarding process, so when are we completing? And I'm like, well, definitely not anytime soon. Like we've got so many processes to go through. Dates, to be honest. But I guess, if you have that weekly communication, you're kind of able to be like, right, okay, this is where we are, and we're like halfway towards completion or a quarter way or whatever the situation really.
Yeah, that's really a really good tip. I think when I'm just throwing back to whenever we've gone through the process ourselves, and I feel like we were personally a bit like, let's not just don't intervene so they can just get to the finish line as fast as possible. But I think in hindsight, it's good to check in weekly and just get an update, a status update.
Good to just make sure that communication is like streamlined. Like even like that email, just never know, like, what the situation. I've had some clients say to me, oh, Jazz, and the seller's just suddenly withdrawn. We had like no idea. There was like no call, no nothing. And I was just like, okay, like if that was like communicated, I don't know whether the communication between the parties and the agent, because I think what the client thinks is once they've put an offer in, that is it. Like the seller is bound to it, to be honest, and they're not. They're definitely not bound to it until we actually exchange contracts.
It's a really good point because I think people don't realize this. This has happened to us once so that we never get excited until we've got the keys in our hand.
Completed. Yeah.
Just don't tell anyone until they've got the keys in our hand, because there has we've heard of other people who, they think like they're buying their first property, that the offer's been accepted and they think, yes, now I can start like thinking about the furniture and everything else. And you go, but you haven't even gone through all of the processes yet, or the key, which is like the clear indication that you've definitely got the property, and anything can fall through. And I don't think, especially if you're a first time buyer, I don't think this is said enough.
Yeah, it's emotional roller coaster. it. How do you manage, just out of curiosity,
People's emotional
how do you manage
expectations.
people's emotional ride when they go through this? Are you on the receiving end of it very much, or have you got tactics to help manage it?
I think I'm realistic, to be honest. And I kind of like say, don't think I'm going to complete in 2 weeks on a freehold with a mortgage, with the searches. It's just not going to happen, to be honest. Like, even like, I've got clients say, oh, Jazz, I need to complete before the stamp duty deadline. Can you do it before the 31st of March? Definitely not. Like, I am not going to like guarantee it's going to guarantee it is going to face the brunt of it, to be honest. And I guess if you just be honest and be like, look, this is my capacity and these are the timelines we're looking for, the easier it will get for the client, because now they're not expecting anything more than what you've said as well. They're just going on by what you're saying. Like, I had children, but July and August, I had a client that said to me, look, but they instructed me like in July. I knew that it was possible. Like, there wasn't going to be a delay in the transaction. It was streamed. It was freehold issues. And we moved well before the delivery of the baby, which was like amazing, because although I said the 1st of September that, yeah, definitely we moved well ahead before that. So I guess it's just being honest and over saying that you're going to be completing. Like, I could have easily have said, well, you're saying 1st of September, I'll probably complete on the 1st of August. I'd rather just give that time as well. And then in case, if it didn't happen, the client's going to come back to you and be like, well, Jazz, you said the 1st of August. And I've stacked up removal companies. I've got my contents ordered. So yeah, I guess it's just about being honest.
Well, we're all about honest. Yeah.
Ironically, yes.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
But we got to keep it real. It's so important. And I'm really glad that you're shining light on this, because it is something that isn't discussed. This process is not discussed about enough. You've mentioned things to look for when you're finding the right solicitor for you. Just on the flip side, because I think it's equally important, what things should you watch out for when you're looking for a conveyancer or solicitor?
What do I look? Sorry, I lost you there. When I'm looking for a conveyancer,
as in what to watch out for.
Like, what would you look for know that you're getting a good one?
Well, like I said, I suppose just make sure they have capacity. Make sure there's no holidays booked. It is dealing with it. They're not like a team of 10, to be honest. Normally, you have some clients that say to me, Jazz, I was dealing with solicitor D's on the file and I don't know which one's actually dealing with it. You hear like so many hiccups like that. Make sure the hidden fees. So all of that, really, to be honest.
So most people would tend, sorry,
our lender panel mentioned clients that say to me, whether they're going with Halifax or they're going with the Bank of Scotland or whoever they're going with, really make sure that solicitor is also on the lender panel. Because what happens is, initially, I've had a client that started off by saying they're going with another solicitor, which is fine. It's Halifax and they were on the panel. But suddenly the rates changed. And, rates change so often. They were now going to switch to a different lender. They went on the panel. So then the file had to come back to us, just because the solicitor just cannot deal with it if they're not on the. So on the outset, do let your solicitor know, like, this is the lender I'm intending to go with. I might change, maybe is there a list of which lenders you currently work with, just so you have an idea as well.
Yeah, that's really, really good, because we were taught to go with, actually this leads on to my next question. We were taught to go with independent financial advisor and broker, independent brokers. Usually when people buy properties, they go through an agency, and the agency often has an in-house solicitor, conveyancer. Would you recommend, what's your take on that? Is it good to work with the in-house conveyancers for the agencies, or is it a good idea to shop around and look at independent solicitors?
Hey guys, if you're new to property investing, we know exactly how hard it is to figure out where to start. That's why we created the Beginner's Roadmap. It's your guide to mastering the fundamentals so that you can move forward with clarity and confidence. Plus, you'll gain access to our free community for ongoing support. Just hit the link in the show notes. Now, let's jump back into this episode.
Why shouldn't you go for it? Well, I was going to say what you're looking out for. So as long as they have like your capacity, it's within budget, why not, to be honest? There's no wrong or right way around it, really. As long as you're comfortable with, it fits in the way with that would be fine. If they had, when I go out and I buy property, I'm always like, do you have capacity? Who's going to be my acting solicitor? So fixed fees. Am I going to be paying anything more? Those are like my core, to be honest.
That's really, really good tips. So you're basically saying it doesn't matter, as long as they can answer those 4 questions in a satisfactory way, then Yeah, that's really good to know, because before, like I said before, we thought, oh, better to go with independent. They're not tied to a bank or anything like what you mentioned before. But in hindsight, it doesn't really matter as long
It doesn't really matter, really, to be honest. Just as long as you're happy and you've built that kind of like solicitor as well. And like I said, just make sure they are available. I guess I say, I prefer those weekly emails. I get a lot of solicitors that say, no, no, like we will just contact them on the milestones, which is, fine. I guess everyone's got their own way of working.
Yeah. So is it good to clarify with them as well what that style of communication should also look like?
Yeah, sure. Because I can speak for myself and I can only tell you how I work, to be honest. But a lot of solicitors work in different ways and different means and different communication. So it kind of depends on your style as well. As I work, I'm inundated with emails. Just let me know on milestones. So I've got to obviously ride along the expectations of my client as well. Whereas I have some clients that say to me, there's no fine, we'll just drop them an email to say, look, there's been no progress, but this is where we are.
Yeah. Well, I was just laughing because I was just remembering the emails from our old solicitor, and it was like really blunt. There were no pleasantries at all. I don't know if you're like that, but I mean, I appreciate just getting to the point.
Being direct.
Call us and be like, hi guys. It's just be like really different. So maybe that's something else to consider. Like, it's just passing on information might not necessarily come with the pleasantries.
With the personal touch.
Normal, yeah.
How long have you been a solicitor for, Jazz?
That invested. That's all. I wanted to go into legals, so I became a lawyer. And then, nice thing, to be honest, around it, all my family have is like invest in property. And it came to like, I just no brainer. Like sometimes, honestly, I feel like a job. Like if you sleep on the laptop, it is so bad. Like I literally, what, just to do this case, and I just need to find out, and it's just weird that it doesn't feel like a job. Because I guess when I was like 17, 18, like I was doing like standard weekend jobs, and it felt like a job. Like sometimes I'd call a sick and be like, nah, I'm not well. Completely different.
I know. Was it because you absolutely love being able to help people in this way and get on the ladder? Yeah.
I just
That's
understood it. And because if I understand it without the legal jargon, it's easy to understand it as well, to be honest. Like even sometimes I get an email and I pick up the call and I'm like, hi. And they're like, oh, wow, like you're available. Like it's so weird because we've never called us and be like, hi. And we didn't even know you were like female. We thought you were a male. We're like, we still got that like stereotype of like solicitors, right? And I'm like, no, like just reach out. I just thought I'd pick up the call, see how you are, where we're at. Just like have a normal conversation, to be honest, which is like, I guess, so refreshing for clients.
Yeah, and I think as well, being a mother, a female and a mother, you can be a lot more empathetic with the life stages.
Service. How many kids do you have, Jazz?
So I have two. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. That's so nice. You can be a role model for them as well.
Do you think they'll ever get into the industry that you're in, or anything to do with property as well? Would you encourage it?
They can like gadgets, like even like on the computer, like they just don't want to go anywhere near it, to be honest. I think they're more creative at this age, which is like great for them. But I would hope like as time goes on and I educate them more, they understand like behind each property they buy, there is going to be like a sense of freedom behind it as well. Like it is going to come. But at least like, they can see how I'm working as well. Like if I want to get up and go, I can do that. Like I can just take the laptop and I can go. Yeah. So I guess kind of hold on to more of that, really. Like you've got to find something that gives you freedom and something you love, really. So I don't know if they're going to
Are you allowed to do your own conveyancing for yourself, or do you have to go to
someone else?
No, like even my dad, he was just like the other day, like he purchased property. He's like, can you do a transaction? Can't do it. And he's like, oh, yeah. So what am I going to do now? It's just easy to do you, and you can just do it. So many people quite come back. Oh, Dad said you could do it. And I'm like, Dad, stop giving my number out to family.
Is it a different kind of...
No, I can't.
I guess it's like a doctor as well. Like doctors can't treat family members, can they?
I don't know.
Or like people that they know, if it's like too much of a conflict of interest, isn't it?
Not conflict of interest.
No, I'd love to know where you see the future going with like first time buyers and people getting on the property ladder to invest as well. Like, do you see, is it all doom and gloom, or is it all like it's positive? Like what are you seeing in like your industry that's, I guess, predicting what the next 5-10 years is going to look like with the UK economy?
To be honest, it's not predicting, to be fair. Like there's times where the interest rates were high and surprisingly I was still buy it. It just kind of depends if it all stacks up, to be honest, if the figures stack up, if it's within budget, why not? I'm a first-time buyer. Like, for example, like the 31st of March, the first-time buyer relief is coming down to 300,000. So anything after 300,000, they're going to be paying tax on. I'm not going to say to that first-time buyer, don't do it, because if your figures add up, somehow you're probably going to renegotiate on that deal anyway. And be like, well, now I'm paying, for example, 2,000 more from the 1st of April. In fact, I've just really time now. Because we're completing in April, I'm paying 2,000. It really works some people. It's really is. Firstly, if you are thinking about it, reach out to a mortgage broker. They will let you know how much you can lend and your affordability is. I think that would be the starting point. Be like, okay, this is how much you can afford and these are the type of houses or purchase price you can look at. And that will be like more of a starting price. Like if you're told by the mortgage broker it's 300,000, that's great. But then obviously if you can look at 650 and those kind of like margins, that's going to take time and kind of depends on how much savings, everything else you've built up as well, whether you have anyone to help you, assist with the transaction. So, just look at all those variables. I think, so like first port of call is like always the mortgage broker, and they'll be able to assist with, a starting point at least, because like I say, so many clients come into it and think, well, I want to buy a property. I don't know what kind of property I want to buy. I don't know how much I want to buy. So yeah, that would be a great starting point, to be fair.
So just to wrap up this episode, we love to ask our guests an organic question. So it's a complete the sentence sort of question.
It could be with life or your business, just anything.
Anything. It doesn't have to strictly be about soliciting. So basically the question is, honestly, the biggest lesson I've learned is...
Got it. Honestly, the biggest lesson I've learned is I didn't do this sooner, to be honest. I was all about property and I went into even like the solicitor, but I didn't buy my own property, which was like, wow, why did I not? Like, I think I only done it like some years ago, to be honest. And I just like everyone else, even though I had that support system, I had the family around me and they've been doing it. It's just when you're doing it yourself, you're kind of like, should I not? So you know what, if you know you want to do it, just jump into it, to be honest. You can only you'd rather say I did it and it didn't go right rather than saying I didn't do it at all.
That's good advice.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Thanks so much, Jazz, for being on this episode. Where can everyone find you? Where's the best place to reach you?
So I'm available on socials. So if it's Instagram, it's UK property_solicitor. I'm available on LinkedIn under Jazz Dhaliwal. And then, if you want to drop me an email, I'm more than happy to pick up on it. It's Jazz, Jaz.
Amazing. We're going to pop that all in the show notes below. So then if you are looking for a property solicitor, you can reach out to Jazz there. Let her know that we sent you if you're looking to purchase property, transfer equity, or look for a remortgage. I know that Becky and Ruth sent you there. But yeah, thank you once again, Jazz. You shared some really useful and great tips for people who just are in the learning or just starting in property. But yeah, it's really important to share what the process looks like.
Well, thank you both, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate your time. Thanks, Jazz.
Thanks, Jazz.
Bye.